Okay, so I'm a senior program manager with National Parks Conservation Association. We're a national organization based in Washington, D.C., with 28 offices around the country, including one right here in Asheville. And we were founded in 1919, 100 years ago. We're having a party, we're having a celebration. We were founded by the first director of the National Park Service, Stephen Mather. But I'm not here just to talk about our mission. I'm here to talk about collaboration with federal, state, tribal, and non-governmental organizations. All these groups here were in Maggie Valley in October at a Federal Highways Administered Wildlife Crossing Workshop to look at how we can improve I-40 for wildlife crossing, particularly critters like this, black bear. I'm talking about the Pigeon River Gorge. You know where the slide just happened, where the road was closed? That's the area that I'm talking about. This is our iconic black bear. This bear is actually above an eastbound tunnel. If you drew a line down from that bear, he's right over the eastbound lane on I-40. Imagine that. These are incredibly intelligent animals. They did not evolve with highways. I-40 in the gorge was opened in 1968. Bears have been moving through there for millennia. They're incredibly smart, like this female surveying the road for her 3 cubs to see if it's safe to cross. It's a challenge, especially with 26,000 vehicles a day on I-40 through the gorge. This photograph was taken, it was actually a screenshot from a video on August the 19th of 2018. A female and 3 cubs safely went across the highway on a Sunday afternoon at 2:30. This shows you the hazard for both bears and humans. It doesn't always end well. Sometimes bears get killed. You see here, there's a concrete barrier in between the 2 lanes, the eastbound and westbound lanes. That's a death trap for cubs. The adults can get over, the cubs can't, and often we have mortality. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So we also, in this corridor, have elk that were reintroduced to the park in 2001, 2002, after a 200-year absence. Those elk have spread out outside the park. They are now on both sides of I-40. They're big animals. A bull elk can go 1,000 pounds. This is a cow and a young calf that were photographed in Cataloochee. This is a cow who was on the shoulder, the right-of-way of I-40 near near Hartford, just over the North Carolina-Tennessee border. Rafting guides took this picture. One day she'd be on one side of the highway, the next day she'd be on the other side of the highway. We didn't know how she was crossing. So she has since had a GPS collar put on her, and we found out some pretty cool stuff. I'm talking about wildlife. I'm a wildlife-focused guy, but this is very much a human safety issue. This vehicle struck an elk. Okay, I drive a Prius. I don't know what you all drive. I do not want to hit a deer. I certainly don't want to hit a 1,000-pound elk. More than 200 people every year in North America are killed. So Steve, my wildlife biologist, is in this picture. Liz Hillard with Wildlands Network is standing up in the middle, and they're collaring a bull elk in the park with National Park Service technicians. We're working closely with the National Park Service, with the North Carolina Wildlife Resource Commission, and these collars tell us where elk are moving across the landscape. That's super helpful. Let's look down on a really important part of the gorge. This is where the double tunnel goes through the mountain. This is about mile marker 5 in North Carolina. This is towards Knoxville, that's towards Asheville. When they built the tunnel, they left the trees on top, and that is effectively a wildlife overpass, just like this in Banff National Park. And this is what we're talking about here. Can we get behind this? What do you think? Yeah. Okay, look, it's naturally vegetated, there's fences, it helps wildlife get across. Now, we're going to follow the science. We're doing a lot of research. We're not saying it needs to happen. We don't know where it needs to happen, but with Steve in the back and Liz and other folks, we're going to figure this out. And you can see an overpass here in Montana and an underpass. Underpasses are also really helpful. You know, cats like bobcats, mountain lions, they don't like overpasses. They like underpasses. Elk, they don't like underpasses. They like overpasses. This is species specific, so you really have to think about what you have. Let's talk about where we live, in the southern Appalachian Mountains. This is a map showing you wildlife corridors. With climate change, wildlife is moving towards the poles, so it's moving north. Look at the corridors in the Appalachian Mountains. We are in the biggest hot spot, and I-40 cuts right across there. It's an obstacle for guys like this. This is a young cub and a female. These were actually photographed on top of that land bridge over the double tunnel. Wildlife are using those. But that's not enough. It's a 28-mile corridor we're looking at, and we're trying to improve wildlife passage. I'm going to talk about a couple other species, like this cat here. This bobcat with a little snow on its head was photographed on January 4th when it was 0 degrees out. And we have a chupacabra on the right. Actually, that's a melanistic coyote, a black coyote. Look carefully. Its pelt is covered in blood. It had just fed. So pretty neat. You don't see them all that often. This is more of a characteristic coyote. This was photographed on the top of that eastbound tunnel where that first bear I showed you was photographed. Same camera, in fact. When he turned to walk away, look, no tail. You don't see that every day. I don't know what happened to that critter's tail, but a really beautiful animal. And they'll benefit from this as well. How many of you have cats at home? Right? A little cat love? Okay. They're inquisitive at home. They're inquisitive in the forest. And there's lots of them, lots of bobcats. They are aware of their environment. So if we have a camera out, they come up, they explore, they look, they want to know what's going on. So this is another creature that could benefit. So I showed you a dead bear earlier. This is a female with a young cub. Right now, they're hibernating. The cubs are being born in big hollow trees in the Smokies. They're going to be emerging soon. What can you guys do? Well, there's a number of things you can do. Number one, support conservation groups. Okay, they need your support. Not only NPCA, Wildlands Network, Defenders of Wildlife. Another thing you can do, when you're on the parkway, when you're in the Smokies, do the speed limit. Speeding kills bears. If you go to Yosemite, when you see that sign, that's where a bear was hit and killed. Lastly, if the Department of Transportation puts out a project for review, weigh in. Ask them to put wildlife mitigation into their projects. You can make a difference. Thank you.